13 years. So a lot of knowledge in that head about appraisals. He's seen 13,000 homes, and he's going to tell us about the appraisal process, and then we're going to have time for a question and answer. So start thinking through your appraisal questions that you really wish you knew the answer of and always wish you could ask an appraiser. Now's your chance. So thanks for coming out, Mike.
All right, thanks.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yes, yeah.
All right, well, I got this just in case my voice goes out, but like I said, my background is 18 years of appraising. I've done 13,000 homes. I was 27 years military before that, so I'm a little broken up from that time frame, and so you'll see me sit down, stand up, sit down. But anyway, I kind of wanted this open up for questions and answers and get a feeling of what we do. Just to give you a bare bones, is that what we do is if you call me out to look at the house, if it's a two-story house in a certain neighborhood, then I usually, on the MLS, you can go a quarter of a mile to a half a mile to a mile. I start at a quarter mile, and I look for similar homes, two-story homes that have the same square footage. And then I look for stuff that has the same finish, whether it's good or bad or whatever. But we go that way. And I usually start at 90 days, and then we'll go 6 months, then we'll go to a year. The bigger the houses are, usually go 2 years. But that's kind of the way we do it. Everything, as far as adjustments for certain things, it's, because I have agents ask me, hey, how much should I adjust for a house or for a garage? And I go by a percentage of the house. So if it's a $500,000 house, it could be 5% of the house is the garage, or 1%. It fluctuates. And a lot of it you play with the numbers. So if I find 4 houses that are the same size, which is very seldom, but same size, same quality, same conditions, everything, then garage isn't worth much. But you kind of go by that. So you do an extraction method is what it's called. And so that's kind of what we go through. I'm trying to think of what else. I'll give you an example of what I had today. Usually on Friday night with the appraisers, we get together and we'll sit there and go, guess what I saw this week? Oh my gosh. But that's kind of what we got going here. If you ever got any questions, let me know. But this morning, I had a realtor. I went out and did an appraisal on a place, tri-level. It had 3 levels. Each level is 400 square feet. Well, they took the square footage right out of the county records, which said 1,600. So if you can imagine, the sales price isn't going to come out at what they thought because they're 400 square feet off. And I had to talk to the agent about that and say, hey, we got a problem here. And she was pretty sick. So she has to go back to her client and talk to them about why it's going to come in low.
How often does that happen?
Not very often. But the county records, I guess what I'm leading to is that the county sometimes counts, like in a 2-story home with it's got the vaulted ceilings, sometimes they'll count that as a second floor. So they'll be counted as square footage. So you have to be careful when you look at your houses of what the square footage is. There's a program that we use, it's called Cuba Casa, and it's free to realtors. It's an app on your phone, and you basically just take it and you just walk around the interior of the house, and it will measure the house for you. It'll actually put the furniture in and give you the square footage of the house too. We've been using it for about a year now, and it comes within 50, 60 feet of what the house, the county records have. So a lot of the measurements are going towards this ANSI standards, where they want to the 1/10 of an inch, whereas the county, El Paso County rounds to the nearest half foot.
Is there right to ask a question?
Sure.
So when you finished versus unfinished, I see these numbers, you've got unfinished basements, and they count just like the same square footage for a finished basement. So you count all the square footage in the house?
Well, there is above grade and below grade. Okay, so, usually above grade, and we go by East Coast standards on a lot of stuff. And the East Coast, the basements aren't finished to the same quality as a lot of the basements are here. They're more like cellars. And here we adjust differently for above grade and adjust differently for below grade. Then I adjust separately for finished basement area too. So you'll see that in there too. And then also bathrooms and things like that. Yes.
Have you ever had a situation where say county rent is 1,000 square feet and you have and the realtor know that it's down all 1,000 square feet? At that point,
Well then,
how do you rectify that?
well, usually I have found it like that a couple of times, a few times, but you try not to make a big deal about something like that. You let the agent know. The people who are buying the house are happy because their appraisal is going to come in high, and you don't tell the agent that has the house, because once the appraisal is done, I don't do nothing with the selling agent at all. I work with the buying agent and the buyer, and most of the time it's just the lender. So that's who I work with. But we kind of go that way.
There's a table of agents here.
Yeah.
We work with Keller Partners, and they've been talking about how the MSI standards have changed with below grade and above grade.
Yes.
Is that true? Like, can you kind of talk how you appraise things that are below grade and above grade?
Yeah. As far as the ANSI standards is anything that's below, any part of the basement or the lower level is below dirt. So it's basement. So it could be a walkout basement, and part of the slope still under, it's got, dirt, it's basement. And then also the biggest change is these 7-foot ceilings. It's got to have a 7-foot ceiling, otherwise it's not, we have to break it out of that line and put it in another line and say, hey, this doesn't comply with ANSI standards, but it still has a market value. So it's a whole different way of presenting it.
Is that 7-foot ceiling to the lowest point or overall? So say you have a duct that comes down to 6, but majority of the ceiling is 7. What would you say that is?
I've never had that come up. Yeah, I've never. But I would go by what the whole majority of the ceiling is. Now, like if we do something that's an A-frame, a certain percentage of the room has got to be above 5 feet, pretty much. So then it doesn't, otherwise it doesn't count as all above grade square footage. So it measures that. It's amazing how this app works, but it does do that.
So if you have a tri-level, bottom level is below grade, that's considered basement.
That's basement. And before, we could consider the whole thing above grade.
And how do you actually, can you kind of talk through what value you get? Right, so there's a bedroom, is that value less than a bedroom?
I go by square footage. So I don't, to me, if you have a 2,000 square foot house and you have 5 bedrooms in it, and you have another 2,000 square foot house that has 3 bedrooms in it, just means the bedrooms are bigger or you got bigger living rooms or something. But I go by square footage as far as above grade and below grades, as far as value goes. Yeah.
So if you're rehabbing the property, what are some of the most things to increase the appraisal value?
Okay, if I was going to increase the value of a home, which is what you guys are probably real interested in, is I would find, there's a lot of people use them for doing a lot of stuff. Most of the things I've seen are rental homes. Now, if it's going to be a rental home, you're fixing it up, vinyl, you're going to do the cheapest stuff you can that makes it nice. A kitchen sell, help sell a house if you're looking for, big value. Kitchens. I don't put a whole lot of weight in landscaping myself because I've been here long enough to where months ago. It's this beautiful yard. A month later, they don't water. It's the same as everybody else's. It's a desert, you know. So I don't put a whole lot of weight into that. Kitchens. You look for certain things. Kitchens catch an eye. What about it?
Yeah, like what things?
You want a fresh look. Repainted cabinets if you don't put new ones in, at least repaint them. Nice clean appliances. Upgrade appliances if you can. You know, there's not a lot of difference between stainless steel and plain white ones anymore. You know, sometimes there are, but look at your neighborhood too. See what your neighborhood. If your neighborhood is all stainless steel, then you don't want to put a white, appliances in.
Do you pay attention to design trends or just the newness?
I mean, as far as
Like if we look at a kitchen here, it's the current trend in design or just the fact that it's new stuff?
I kind of go through this stuff. You know what? I think it's neat if you open it up. It's like open concept now. I think that's nice, and it probably will attract a better market, a higher market. And you want to try. I know if I'm investing in a house, I have a house that I want to go lowest price or lowest amount of money to fix it up, so I can get the highest return on it. And that's what you're looking for.
Can I ask how much that like affects your appraisal though? So like the niceness versus just the square footage. How big of a difference?
Well, like when I go to a house, like it's $1 million home, I expect no less than granite. I expect, custom, appliances. I expect to see, because that's what it's competing with, is that kind of stuff. So you got to look at your neighborhood and see, your Pikes Peak Park, granite's probably not something that people want down there. I'm looking at different neighborhoods too and stuff. Stetson Hills, maybe you can get away with granite, sometimes not. I'm using that as an example. But, that's kind of where you got to play it by ear.
Do you see it feels like there's a lot of variation between appraisers. So I know you guys obviously have a standard, but as villagers it can be very frustrating when you're not quite sure what the appraiser's going to say. So you talk about square footage is most important to you, where I feel like we've talked to a lot of appraisers about the number of bedrooms is important. So if they had a 2,000 square foot house, one has 5 bedrooms, one has 3, obviously the 3 bedroom would increase.
Right. You're looking at the market too. It's like if I'm at a place where it's a young family, or a family that has more kids, then you want more bedrooms. But if you're in a different market where it's an older, not older, I should a higher income crowd. I'm trying to be careful how I say this, so and I'm not close enough to the door to get out of here. So, anyway, you got to be, because when you get to the more higher end, people want they want nicer bedrooms. They don't want lots of them. So to me, I go by square footage, and the square footage usually, tells me what I need to know. And I've done enough of these to where, and I've been beat enough too by lenders and whatever that I know what they're looking for, what they want to see. We try.
How about a view? How important is view versus no view?
See, now another thing when we do appraisals is is this working? Can you hear me? Can all hear me?
You hold it closer.
Like this is good. But when we do appraisals, if there's like a view, then I need to find another house that has a view. Otherwise, if there's no houses that have a view, then I can't tell you what the market's paying for that view. Does that make sense?
But if you weren't actually writing this on paper, what would you say the value of it?
Yeah, here we go. I wouldn't put a value on it. Most time I don't, I always find another house that has a view. So if it has a view, and I look at a view, and this is kind of funny in my own mind, is that I consider place I want to sit on the deck, have a glass of wine or a beer, and sit there and enjoy the city view, the mountain views, whatever. And to me now, because I can, a lot of the agents say, hey, this place has got a mountain view. You're leaning off the, out the window or whatever to see the mountain. But yeah, so I don't put a whole lot of value on views unless I can find another company. Now, what I'll do is I'll mention that in a report if I can't find a company.
Unusual amenities that houses have that are hard to find house for.
Tennis courts. Yeah, I run into a lot. Tennis courts. Well, again, it's like pools. That's better examples of pool. Is that we hardly put any value on a pool, even though it could cost $100,000 to put this pool in the ground and whatever they do to it around it. Because 95% of the market in Colorado Springs area here, they can care less about a pool. Nobody wants to know. If you have a hot tub, that's probably better if you have it built into the ground, because a lot of people want hot tubs preferred to a pool. But really, it's hard to put a value on a pool.
Is there a way, it's like a general value on it? Like
No.
maybe pricing and structure?
This guy's gonna get me in trouble. No, I wouldn't even, I would put down how much it costs to build it. But if I have, $300,000-$600,000 homes in that neighborhood, and this thing's selling for $600,000, then basically nobody's paying anything for that pool. So, but that's kind of that's just me. And like you said, they're all different.
You take into account plumbing and or electrical. Do you? Say if I have a 1920 build,
It helps if it has that.
it's all nice on the outside, but it all has well not to or something.
Well, a lot of it we can't tell.
You just don't take it into consideration.
Well, if FHA is the only one that requires us to turn the water on. Everybody else just wants to know the square footage, and if it's safety. Safety is number one, and peeling chipping paint seems to be a big deal with everything. VA and FHA, I do VA, FHA, and conventional stuff. So conventional just wants you to identify it and how much it costs to cure. Same way with FHA, but they want you to fix the peeling, chipping paint, any kind of safety hazards. And conventional does too. They want you to fix safety hazards too. But
Talk about those specific FHA and VA requirements, like for an appraisal. Like, what do they, what requirements do they have? So you talk about some of them, but are there more?
no, actually, and I've talked.
Roofing glass or anything like that, cracked windows?
Nope. None of that's, VA doesn't want to charge, they don't want any more expense going to the veteran than has to be. So pretty much the only thing VA says it's a condition that they have to fix is peeling and chipping paint. Everything else needs to be identified, then it's up to the lender. If the lender says, hey, we want this fixed, then it's up to the lender, but it's not the appraiser that calls it. So, and then FHAs, basically, they want us to test a certain amount of the electrical. They want us up in the attic. VA wants you up in the attic. They want you to look up in the attic too. But most of the appraisers are so old they can't get up in the attics anymore. But VA appraisers are the only ones that die faster than they retire. So, it was funny. We had a VA meeting and the head VA guy said, hey, you guys need to start getting up in the attic. And the average age of a VA appraiser is like 69 years old. And it was a big outroar of, everybody was screaming and hollering. Okay, no, don't do that no more. I don't want you guys to get hurt while you're out there doing a VA appraisal. But, so anyway, so you probably won't see a VA guy look in the attic. But FHA is supposed to look in the attic and crawl space. And, they're supposed to test a random amount of electrical outlets and stuff, plumbing, as far as flushing it and stuff like that. But other than that.
the 2-car, 400 square foot garage, studio apartment, the kitchen and a bathroom, common area, did I increase the value of my home?
Well, something like that, that stuff happens a lot in Whitefield. A lot of places take their 1-car garage and they convert it into a family room. So you see it a lot down there. And again, you have to find other houses that have that kind of square footage and make sure that it's finished the same way as the rest of the house. I've seen guys where, another one of these Friday night stories, but you know, the guy was telling me he finished his basement and he literally, you could see where he took the plaster and threw it on the ceiling. And it was like back and forth, and you're like, and it's put the, you know, it's just getting, I don't know if this is too technical or not, but the drywall has a tapered ends. Well, he didn't use those, he used the big ones, so the tape is sticking out, you know, and the whole thing you're going, yeah, just like you're looking right now. But, you know, so you got to make sure that there's another house that's got the same square footage that you've just added to that house. You know, a lot of places you know, I mean, it's kind of hard. Now you got to also look to see if there is a garage. If the neighborhood wants, you know, calls for a garage, then, you know, might not want to change it to a garage or to a living room or whatever.
So is garage square footage different than house square footage?
Yes.
Like, do you not include garage square footage in specific house?
No. Garage is not counted in with the house. So you'll see that separate, yes.
How much does the price of the contract come into play when you work for the appraisal?
As far as for me, it weighs a lot. If I have 2 agents on each end, or an agent on each end of the deal, and there's a contract, and I don't think there's something, you know, that smells funny, then I'm going to fight for that price that these people agreed to. Now, you know, you kind of think, you know, because a lot of times as an appraiser, you can't win. You know, if you go too high, then somebody's mad. If you go too low, somebody's mad. Well, I had one where, you know, it was back when all the bidding and stuff was going on, and the folks, you know, they overbid the house over $20,000 more than what the list price was. And, you know, I looked at it, got the contract, I looked at this, and I looked at the neighborhood, and I found that value. And I got a week later, I got a call from the people buying the house, going, "What are you doing?" So you know, you were buying it for this price. You know, I found that value. You know, you should be happy. And they go, "No, we overbid because we thought you would bring it back down, and then we would get the house for cheaper." Well, it doesn't quite work that way. But you know, I mean, that's just some of the things that have happened. But, and then, you know, then also the realtors, you know, geez, let me talk to you about those, but
So the real estate market has moved so much more rapidly than it has in past years recently. We had this huge run-up, and then it turned around and it's come down very quickly. How far back are you going now for your comps?
Well,
because at this point in time, really, any comp that's more than 2 or 3 months old is really.
If I do a comp that's over 3 months old, then I start deducting like 1 or 2% per the sales price. So that way, you know, because it just shows that the market has changed that much. Now it seems like we've kind of, you know, when I start doing this, we do a 1004 MC, and it seems like it's stabled out a little bit here. And I think I'm hoping that it starts going back up just because of the summertime. But spring and summer, that's usually the high part of this year. But yeah, so that's a big thing right now is how much to deduct for a house. But you know, from what I'm seeing now, stuff that's listed, it's a lot of you guys are already adjusting for that market. So I don't need to, the newer stuff has already come down. And if I see that the newer stuff is selling for stuff that was 4 or 5 months ago, then I don't need to adjust too much. But it's still going to get hit.
What do you start adjusting first? Like, I know you said you start with a quarter mile, is that what you said?
Well, in the MLS, it does 0.25 and then half mile. Then.
So if you can't find anything within that, do you start going out further first, or do you start going back in time first?
Well, what I do is, I'll do 3 months, then I'll go to 6 months. And then for 6 months, then I go to half mile or in that neighborhood. And if I don't try not to go into different neighborhoods, so then I'll start finding different styles of homes. And similar, like for a 2-story, I'll go maybe 4 levels. Ranch, I'll go bi-levels, tri-levels, things like that. But I try to stick to the same style,
What about if it's something that's not very common, like a house and cottage in a certain area?
House and cottage?
Yeah.
Well, then I need to find another house and cottage.
And what if it's in a different neighborhood? We'll go to that different neighborhood?
Because I have to have one comp at least that has a house and cottage, so I'll stretch out to find that house and cottage.
What's the furthest you'll go?
You've seen my appraisals, huh? No, just kidding. I don't know, when I go out to a certain point and I feel like I'm going into a different neighborhood, then I'll just explain that I couldn't find a comp. I went back 2 years in time, checked all styles, all this, and there was nothing within this many, this range. And then let the lender decide what they want to do. Sometimes lender will come back and say, hey, would you go 5-10 miles out? Well, so yeah, it's different.
So as agents and investors in the room, how do we help you do your job?
Good question. Basically, I like if you send me, or if I get an order to come see your house, I like to see everything that's new, a list, and I want to see your comps. I want to see how you came up with that. And as I was telling you earlier, is that I want to hear that bedtime story, of why this thing is worth this much, and when I can only find it for this much. Tell me what it is. If you got a list of, a whole laundry list of stuff that's been fixed, then I want to get that laundry list from you. And now I've had, this is another thing for agents, is I'm going to keep picking on you guys. I used to have an office in Keller Williams on Kelly Johnson. But anyway, basically, I lost my train of thought. Yes, sorry. Sorry. Yes. I have an agent where a lot of you guys go by price per square foot. I've heard that to where it's, makes me kind of ill because the lender doesn't want to see that. They want to see everything bracketed. So they want to see a larger lot, same amount of bathrooms, lower bathrooms, different. That way they can get an idea of where the prices are in this neighborhood as far as what the bathrooms go. I'm just using bathrooms as an example. AC units, that seems to get a really good adjustment for what they cost in a lot of places. But if you can give me a list of what you've done to the house or what's been done to the house, I can put that in the report. I put it right in the report.
And you guys doing that for what? The appraisal versus
Yeah. Yeah, I want the stuff before I put the report together. Because it's no fun. I put a number together and you go, oh, I forgot to tell you about this, that, this. I don't want that. Now, I know a lot of appraisers say, hey, leave me alone, let me do my thing. So you got to play by ear what the appraiser will do. There are some that don't want to be talked to, because I know when I get in there, I have a checklist that I follow. And I do certain things a certain way, and I do it every time the same way. And if you start talking to me, now I missed something in that checklist. So now, and then when it doesn't show up on a report, somebody's going to get excited. Say, hey, well, there was a, this, that, whatever. And I didn't see it because the person was talking to me the whole time I went through the house. I always say, hey, save your stuff for when I'm done. Let me do my thing, walk around, take my pictures, make measurements, do whatever. And then if you have highlights that you want to tell me about, then we'll go do your tour. But, or you have to have a list, that's even better, or you're in a list of, a lot of agents give packages that are pretty nice to where, here's our comps, here's this. Now, I remember what I forgot earlier, but getting old sucks. But I had an agent that said their house, this 2-story, 4,000 square foot house was worth $700,000. And I'm like, okay, show me your comps, because I'm not even coming close to that. And they gave me a comp that was a ranch, 1,500 square foot house. It said this house is selling for $45 or $150 a square foot. So my 4,000 square foot house is should be selling for $150 a square foot too. You go, it don't work that way. No. So it's got to be similar stuff.
Can you talk about the different appraisals that you do? So like obviously for a single family home, there's a specific appraisal, but when you start getting into the income producing properties, those appraisals kind of change, and so there's some different appraisals. Can you talk about those?
Well, what we're allowed to do is two family and up to 4 family, triplexes. So a lot of it, unfortunately for lenders, they still go by the sales comparison garage.
Okay.
So we're looking for other comps. Whereas when you start doing commercial stuff, the income approach is what everybody goes by. So
Can you talk about the income approach a little bit?
basically, it's what a property will make, what's the potential for that property to make, what kind of income it will earn.
And how do you get a value from that?
I'm not a commercial appraiser. Sorry, it's out of my. Yeah, I don't. I've done sales comparison approaches. All I do.
Okay.
So you find another appraiser.
Did you say your limit was triplex?
4plex.
Okay.
4plex.
How many different approaches are there?
There's 3. Income, cost, and sales. Cost approach. It's basically the cost, what it costs to build a place. None of them, a lot of appraisers don't use it because it's there's usually no lot sales, so you can't tell what the lots are worth without doing an extraction method. It's it's something a lot of people don't do. They just don't do it anymore. Some of the appraisals are, like FHA wants the value of the land, so a lot of times you have to do the cost approach, on your own work file to get the cost of that land. Yeah.
What's the most unique property you ever had to appraise that left you head scratching?
It's getting hot here. I had one that was very interesting was down in Manitou. It's a small ranch-style home, so there's nothing special about it. And I went out to the detached 2-car garage, and in the garage, it was probably about as big as this room, a little bit smaller. But on one side, it had a snake skin stretched along that whole wall. It could have to be 24 foot long. And you go, wow, that's cool. I don't know where you got that. And when I got in the house, as I'm getting ready to go down to the basement, he came up behind me and grabbed a machete off the wall. And I'm like, what's the machete for? He goes, well, it's for the snake. I go, great, the snake. And we went down in his basement, and he had one of those, it must have been anaconda. Every time I tell a story, the snake gets bigger. But I swear, it was at least this round. It was coiled up about this high, and it was in a corner. And he had it in a room, and with a big window. And I was like, holy, I've never seen anything that big. And I've done survival training where I've been out in the woods, jungle and everything. But I go, why would you have something like that? He goes, well, I get $5,000 per baby. And I go, well, Colorado Springs is 16-foot limit, and he goes, and I think that'd be way over that. And he goes, well, you can go over it if you get inspected by the city every 6 months. And he had little kids running around. And I go, well, why would you do this with little kids? He goes, I get $5,000 per baby. So that was one of the interesting ones. I had one out east out east where I went into, and well, it was an old house, looked like something out of the Munsters, the Addams Family or something like that, just a big old house, and it was on 40 acres, and there was trailers and cars and, you know, and dead trees, and on the side of the house, it looked like they had a big old backhoe that had dug out side of the dirt. And I'm like, okay. And we walked in the house, and the lady goes, "You're the third appraiser we've had." And you're like, okay, well, you know, and as I was walking through the house, the clothes were matted into the floor so much you couldn't pull them out of the carpet. I mean, it was a nasty place inside. I took a picture of a bedroom and didn't realize there was somebody in a bed. You had to crawl up a ladder to get to the second floor. And when I went down to the basement, that wasn't the bad part yet. Went to the basement, and you had the metal beams in the basement that hold up the floors. It was bent. And the whole side of the cement wall was gone. It was where that backhoe dug out. All that was gone. It was caved in. So I took pictures all around. I walked up and says, "You're going to need a fourth appraiser." And I left. I said all that stuff to the bank, and they use it as an example of, you know, hey, this is something we don't want to lend money on, type thing. But be careful. And you know, some of the cool ones that down at Broadmoor, one of the houses went to recently had a speakeasy in behind the bookcase where the book, you pull out the book and the case opens up and you back in the back in a bar, and you know, it's like, hey, this is kind of cool, but I don't know, it wasn't worth anything, but just like it. No. But, yeah, so you see a lot of stuff, and if I would have had a dime for every time I've heard, I just haven't had a chance to clean this week. I wouldn't be talking to you now. I'd be helping you invest, but yeah, we see a lot of stuff. It's a lot of interesting things.
So a little more basic question, if we just have like a parking lot and we add exposure to that, does that add value, or is that another thing you need to have?
A parking lot? What do you mean?
Like if our property is a parking lot that's just open to the elements, and we add enclosure, what kind of value, carport, what kind of value?
Oh, it's a carport, you want to enclose it to be a garage?
So there's a paved area and they want to put a carport on top.
I don't put a whole lot of weight in carports, you know, because you can build them for a couple $1,000s. You know, I mean, if you enclose it, then it'd be a garage, and then we talk another story. But you know, to me, I wouldn't put a lot of weight in it. I'd have to find another comp that has a carport.
I was going to ask that too.
All right. Yes. All appraisals should be the same. We're finding a market value of a neighborhood or for your house. There is no, I've heard that so many times where, oh, this is just a refinance, so this is what we need. I mean, or we're selling and we need this, or the divorce. That's always the fun one. Is one wants up here, the other one wants it down here, and so it's always interesting there too. But yeah, they should all be the same. And you know what? To me, if I come into your house or do your loan or do your appraisal, and I come in low, I'm open. This to me, this is an opinion of value. It's not something written. I put it down here. This is what I think the house is worth. But a lot of times I would like to do a plus or minus. But if you can show me something that says, hey, this house, you forgot this, or you didn't mention this, or we forgot to give you this information that bumps it up here, I'm willing to change my report in a heartbeat. And I'm saying this because I'm surrounded by 50 people, but yes.
How do you value unconscious work? Does it have a negative?
A what?
Unconscious work.
Oh.
It's like an extra deck or something that's not supposed to be there. We're buying a house.
We see it more like in basements. People will finish their own basements. And what we'll do is make a comment. It still has a market value, but it may not be to code. And that's the biggest thing. So a lot of lenders will say, hey, you need to go back, people that have the house, you need to go back and permit it, get it permitted. Decks, I've never seen anybody say anything about a permit on a deck, but houses, basements, basically.
This question, how do you know it's not permitted work?
Because if you call county, county has all the permits that are filed against that house ever.
What needs to be permitted?
Any kind of improvement, really.
Okay, even a wall. I want to put up something, just the wall
Well,
myself.
you know, I'm not the man for that, so.
So you don't come up with that, the inspector might come up with the permitted or not permitted. But you
Home inspector, well, no, we'll know.
you do that.
And you know, a lot of it's, we're not required to look up permits. I don't care what anybody says, we're not required to look up permits. And, you know, if it looks like a house has if the basement's got 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a living room, or a family room, and that's the way the market looks at it as, is 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a living room, and that's what I'm gonna say it's worth. It's up to the agents or title or somebody to say, hey, you know, there's no permit for this finished basement. And a lot of times you'll see it in the county records, if it's not a permitted basement, then it won't show as finished square footage in the basement. So a lot of times if you'll see, hey, this is an unfinished basement on the county, when you get over there, it's a finished basement, then that's when I look at the permits to see if it was permitted, what's going on, then I'll make a comment if I catch it. But that's about the only time you see that I see. But, anything else?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Would you recommend painting the exterior before getting an appraisal or things like that?
Well, FHA requires that peeling and chipping paint be fixed. So if you have any kind of, if you see any of your houses got peeling and chipping paint, if you want to have it marketed to where it's open to FHA and VA, then you're going to have to paint it.
You say that it increases the value if you do it?
And just make it where you can sell it. And it's something that's, you know, you can put down, we can put down as, hey, it's brand new paint, then, you know, people like that. You know, so it's in the MLS, more stuff you guys can put in the MLS that helps the appraiser out, plus it helps other people buying the house. You know, it doesn't matter how minute it is, put it in there. It's up to the person looking at it to decide if it's important or not. So, but.
Do you ever, and I know this may be more an inspection question, but you ever notice cracks in a basement? And, you know, there's mine subsistence around here that I learned about.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice that? And should consider that from an appraisal perspective?
Well, if we see a crack in the basement wall, then we'll note it and ask for an engineer to check it out. It's not our job. We're not the experts in that. We could say, hey, there's a crack here. May or may not be something wrong with this. So somebody else needs to come and look at it. Yeah. So, anything else? Good. That's what I like to hear. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming out, Mike.
Okay.
We appreciate it. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jordan Malera. I help run the meetup with Ryan and Tanner. But the reason we wanted to bring Mike in is just because the appraisal process is important, especially when buying an investment property and when looking at things like HELOCs and refinances and other. Basically, the appraiser is always a part of the process, and it's just good to keep in mind that they always represent the bank, and so they're looking to. Well, most of the time they're representing the bank, and so although you may feel like they're against you, a lot of times these appraisers want to help you out. One of the greatest things that a lot of us, at least at Renjoy, have found out is that appraisers want to be provided information, and so the more information you can provide them, the better it's going to be. And so that's really been a focus of ours. How do we provide comps? How do we provide renovations that have been done and cost for those renovations to help support a specific value? And this even goes as far as, a lot of us are focused on short-term rentals. If you can show, and I don't know how you feel about this, Mike, but I've showed other comps of other, say, eligible non-owner occupied short-term rental properties, and to compare those comps with other ones that aren't eligible has provided some benefit in showing that this one provide this, this specific property has more value because of this specific nuance. And anything you can provide, again, like that's in addition to what's seen on a visual level is beneficial to an appraiser, and will be beneficial to you when trying to refinance, when trying to pull home equity line of credit, when trying to do anything in terms of purchasing or refinancing a property. And so I think it was really great to have you out here, Mike, just to kind of talk about the appraisal process, help us understand to a deeper level how appraisals are done and how we can better support appraisers in the future as we continue to transact real estate. So thank you.